Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing The Predator. Which Predator? The Predator. That's which one. Joining me tonight, first up, he is the business manager at bloodygoodhorror.com, coming to you from Manhattan, New York City. Please welcome Mr. John Schnars.
Hi, Eric.
He shaved.
Yeah, yes, I did.
I can see your 5 o'clock goatee shadow, though.
That's a 2-day. That's a 48-hour shadow.
Not here though. Not here though. On your cheeks, smooth as a baby's bottom. Love it. You know I love it. Next up on the show. Next up on the show, resident young person, member of the new class, got a sweet haircut. Please welcome Sophie to the show.
Yeah, I sure did get a haircut back in July.
Just doing young people stuff.
Boom!
Sophie, I know because you're a young person, you're not familiar with time dilation, but to me and Schnars, July may have as well have been yesterday.
Sure.
It
I mean,
basically
fair
was.
enough.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Last up tonight on the show, no longer a young person, unfortunately. He is, however, the web developer at bloodygoodhorror.com. Please welcome one Mr. Mark to the show.
Hi.
Hi, Mark.
You know I gotta be here for steroid monsters.
Yeah. Write it out.
Who don't want to be part of that?
Yeah, we're here tonight to talk about Shane Black's Predators, The Predators, not his best friend who he cast in the movie.
The Predator.
The Predator,
Not Predators, which is also a movie.
John Schnars had a week to catch up on that Olivia Munn story, so now he's all on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Are we going to engage on this?
And
I
for-
feel like we
and
should
for
probably-
pos-
I don't know what the story is. As the resident young person, I missed that.
John's
Wait,
face.
what?
Wow.
I hope he
Sophie,
sees
I would have
watching
expected
so we
you
can
to
just
have been
John's
all over
reaction.
this story. Also, for
No.
posterity's
Oh, man.
sake, let us note that today is the day that Mario Kart was ruined forever.
Oh, Christ. We can, I mean, the short version of the story is that there was an additional Predator that was cut from the movie, I think.
Shane Black hired a friend of his, a longtime friend, to be in a bit part in the movie. He had a scene with Olivia Munn, who later found out that this guy in a former life was I don't know if this was former or not, but he had some type of relationship with a 14-year-old and was an actual sexual, like, what's the
Hold
word
on.
there?
He's a
The
registered...
actual actor?
He's a
No,
registered
yes.
sex offender.
He's a registered sex offender. He pled guilty. I did read up on this today. He pled guilty to like 2 counts. Basically, he was trying to lure a 14-year-old into a sexual relationship via email. That was what the article I
Not
read
great.
said.
Not a great thing to do.
So,
And, like-
and she was very upset that they didn't know about this, that the guy was hired, whatever. So, she was very like vocal about it on the press tour, like because as soon as it became apparent that she was going to talk about it, everybody was asking her about it, and then it
Right.
got real weird. Like her co-stars were being weird and not really backing her up, and like Sterling Brown in particular had like one of the most condescending Twitter messages I've ever seen. Like he might as well have called her honey in this thing. Like it was
Oh, no.
it was a little much.
Wait, which one's Sterling Brown?
Can I ask how long ago the offense happened? Sterling
So-
K. Brown was the bad guy.
This is what I was actually very curious for Sophie to engage, because this is like kind of the intersection of your professional and movie viewing lives, I would say. So this was the same question I asked Eric. Eric, I think we aligned on like a decade plus, but definitely
Yeah.
when he was an adult, like he was not a like young person.
Sure. Okay. That's interesting and makes it complicated.
Anyway,
Yeah, I mean, I guess I guess my question would be like, if Shane Black had like gone to Olivia Munn and been like, look, my friend is this guy, he did this thing. Are you okay if he's in the movie? Like, would she have been okay with it, or would she have, like that? Like, who knows?
yeah, sure.
But I think that basically she like found out about it like after the fact and was like, holy shit, like you got to be kidding me. You let me be in a scene with this guy, and then that's when it became like a thing.
Yeah. I think like I would take issue with the idea that like because he has a sexual offense that he pled guilty to 10 years ago, like you should be afraid to be. I mean, I don't know what her reaction was. I didn't read it, but like, yeah, I agree that, maybe that I also don't necessarily agree that should have been disclosed to everybody on set. I don't know. That's complicated.
I think it seemed to bother her a lot that they didn't know. I don't know. Listen, it's 2018. Maybe not the best look is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
The good / bad news is you wouldn't even know that it was cut from the movie because it seems like there's other scenes that are just missing from the movie also.
Listen,
Oh
that's
yeah,
not the
I
scene.
thought someone was like walking with this movie and tripped and fell, and a bunch of scenes fell out, and they just kind of like
Listen,
kept going. And
that's not the scene I'm concerned about being missing. I'm concerned about how the guy got that cop car, and we can talk about it later, or maybe the weather helicopter. But that's beside the point. You know what's less controversial and did happen during at least Mark and my screening of The Predator. So Mark was in Boston this weekend. We had a very Boston weekend. We see the Red Sox play the Mets.
The fucking
Sox.
Red Sox, bro.
The
John,
Sox.
I wish Joe was here for this, but I have to tell you that Mets fans are the most obnoxious people I've ever been around in my entire life. Like,
I mean-
bar none.
Yeah. No.
and
be
that's
fair-
saying something
surprises
because
me.
you now live in Boston, and their fans are also pretty.
Boston
And
fans
to
are
be fair,
delightful.
Eric was at a baseball game that other people were at, and they were enjoying the game. So I think that was upsetting to him in general.
Yeah.
I think he could have been in
Why
literally
are
any
these
other.
people not sitting down quietly?
Right, he could have been
watching
in any
this
other
sport?
stadium for any other team and would have had the exact same
Listen,
reaction.
you cannot tell me that dude sitting in front of us wasn't one of the most obnoxious human beings you've ever seen in your entire
Right,
life.
but counterpoint, there's at least one of those guys in every single professional baseball stadium across the country.
Yeah, well, I stand by my statement.
But on this particular day,
So-
he was wearing Mets colors and sitting in front of you.
So we went to see The Predator. Mark, do you want
He
to tell
was
it?
pretty annoying, and so I'll give you that.
No, that's fine. You can talk shit to me. It's fine. Do you want to tell
Well,
the most Boston story ever that happened to you? I
Well,
say happened
yeah.
to you because it didn't really register to me as being funny because I'm just around it all the time. But Mark like legit lost his shit in the theater when this happened.
Well, you know, when you're traveling, and especially traveling to a place like Boston, you hope you hear the accent. At least one really good example of the accent. And we were watching previews, and they had a preview.
I have the name. I
can't
have the
even
name.
remember the name of the movie. It's
So this was an interesting thing I want to talk about because this preview is kind of nuts. It's based on
the girl with the big eyes.
Yeah, it's based on a manga. It's like it almost looks. It's called Alita Battle Angel, and it's like it almost looks like a YA kind of a thing. But the entire trailer is basically her kicking dudes' asses. Like that's
Well,
the
Eric,
whole trailer.
funny sub story about this that you may or may not know. They released a teaser trailer for that like months and months ago, and how gigantic her eyes were freaked people out, so they actually dialed it back a little
Wow,
bit.
yeah,
They
it's-
made her
it's-
eyes slightly smaller. So that
It's
is the
real weird. It's like
that is the least unsettling version of that image that has ever existed. But anyways, in that trailer, there's lots of flipping and kicking and kung fuing, and there's like a brief pause, and you just hear this guy go, "I would have put him in an armbar," and I just like, you can't find people are always say like pakika in the yacht. I feel like amba is a word I had not even considered hearing in a Boston accent.
No,
It's
this
just
guy
really-
was in deep in Boston, and like
so he's a martial arts expert and clearly a Bostonian.
I have to give Mark credit. He was very respectful. He was trying to contain his uncontrollable laughter, but it was like one of these where you kind of put your hands in front of your face and just like, oh,
I did make a slight raspberry noise into my hands.
I mean, to be
Did
fair,
you make eye contact with this person?
no, he was
Like,
behind
you could-
us,
Oh,
but it was
okay.
like the guy said
dude,
it.
I didn't want to catch the wrath of the amba.
It was when the
trailer.
trailer. It was when the trailer ended. The guy said it clear as day. Like you could have heard him from the front row. From
Beautiful. You know, sometimes I'm like not in the mood for commentary between trailers, but if it's in a Boston accent and it has the word amba in it, I'm gonna be pretty excited.
Yeah, I mean,
You're
you know,
into it. Yeah,
You don't want to
cool.
make him mad. He might put you in that amba.
I think the question that the listeners at home are dying to know is, Mark, did you use the bathroom at the movie theater, and how much pee was on the floor?
Good amount of pee, right, Mark?
Yeah, quite a bit. Yeah, for sure.
I didn't want to mention it when we were in the bathroom because there were other people there, but I was like, look at all this pee.
No, you did literally say, "Watch
You were
out."
like comically pointing at the ground,
I
but
mean,
not saying anything.
To be fair, I was
Oh my
at Fenway
God.
Park the day before,
Yeah.
which at a
They have
baseball
trough
stadium
urinals.
bathroom they may as well just dump buckets of piss on the floor.
No,
so.
I will say no trough urinals.
Did they get rid of them?
They were normal because my dad actually was. It's funny because I was having this convo with my dad because he said, "Do you remember Rich Stadium?" Because years ago we all went to a Bills game together as a family, and they had the troughs, and they were just the worst.
That's like a survival thing, though. It's so goddamn cold in that stadium. You have to be like ass to ass when you're peeing
To stay
maintain
warm
warmth.
while you're peeing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Eric, do you prefer the floor length trough, like where it's just like one big thing and everyone's just like mostly pissing on the wall? Is that better?
That's okay because you can still get your personal space there. I feel like the metal Sophie, are you familiar with these?
You know
So-
what? They don't
I
have
hope-
them in
I
Lakers.
hope
Okay,
not.
at some stadiums, so like a normal
Maybe
dude,
at like a Ren Fair or something.
no, this is gonna be fun. In a normal dude's bathroom, you have individual urinals, right? And they're
I
like,
mean, I'm familiar with the concept
they have a
of
little-
urinals,
they
and
got a
I know
little-
what happens when you go in one with a trough on the floor that you have to pee on
yeah,
the
I mean, they
wall.
have a little
I
like
did have brothers. I
they,
mean,
they have a little like
Yeah.
you know semi little privacy thing, and like you get your own, and then it's whatever. But the stadium trough is literally like it's not even. So there are urinals that go all the way to the floor, but a stadium trough is a whole different beast. It's literally like you just put a giant round metal bucket somewhere, and then you just like belly up and just you're all standing shoulder to shoulder, basically. Just it's like a communal thing is the only way I can
Oh
describe
my
it.
god.
It's
It's like
terrible.
a
Talking about
sink. It's like
stocks-
a
stocks
big
and
like
bonds.
sink.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Anyway, Mark can confirm the amount of urine on the floor. Sophie, like I can see the gears in her head turning right now to see. Just trying to picture that.
If you've ever seen footage of like a bunch of pigs eating out of a trough, it's like that.
no, like
but
I
instead of
thought I
eating,
got
it's
it,
peeing.
and then John said it's like a sink.
It is
and
kind
that
of
made
like
it
it's
so
kind of
much
like
more
a
confusing.
But they're lower.
it's
like
like a
low
you mean
basin.
like a camp? You mean like a camp sink where it's like
Yes.
a long thing?
yeah, and the
Okay, not
material.
like-
It's always
okay.
like this
like
really.
a farm sink.
It's always like this
Well,
really.
I thought you were talking. You said like a sink, so I'm thinking like a round thing that's more like in the middle of the room, and you're all standing in a circle making eye contact. while you're eating.
No, but sometimes there are.
It's
But
a very
sometimes there
liberal
are.
interpretation. I'm into
No,
that.
but sometimes there are three sides though, or sometimes it's like rounded on the ends, and you could be making eye
Well,
contact.
have you ever used a public urinal? When I say public, I mean like so. When I was in London one time, they had them, and they're just like
They,
in the middle of the street.
it's like a circle you
and-
walk into.
Yeah,
right?
and you go around it. Yeah,
But
and
you
it's
have
a
So I've
circle.
privacy.
seen pictures of those. That's nuts.
Yeah, it's
This
super
is a
gross.
bougie observation, but they had a thing about that in on NPR last week about that new phenomenon in France, and it's called pipi sauvage. And there was just a moment where they were like, they paused and then they just yelled pipi sauvage and then started laughing, and I was like, man, they are like really reaching for anything to be happy about. They're just like
So what is? So what
just
is?
found.
That?
What's that?
What is that?
That is public urination. That is the
Like where you-
engaging in yeah.
Like where you're not even in the privacy thing, you're just doing it.
I can't remember if that is referring to the phenomenon that led to the public toilets, like if peeing outside was such a problem that they had to put the toilets out there, or if
I mean,
Well,
why else
it
would
is?
you do it?
It is France, Mark. So you know.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
so there you go, Boston accents in
other-
urine, another good intro in Bloody Good Horror history.
Other than the amount of urine on my theater floor snores, there's other breaking news this week. Important things.
Mhm.
Did you know that I am in a documentary?
So I was aware that you had mentioned this like one time, and I just was like, oh yeah, that's like a crazy Eric rambling situation. Like I'm not gonna worry about this.
Here, I should get the poster.
So
It's
let's
got
say
a-
no.
It's got a great poster. So okay, multiple people have asked me, John, so I'm going to bring it up. So this is called. It's a movie called Survival: The Film Freaks,
They're
and
asking.
basically what it is it is a film about cult movies. The idea being it explores sort of what a cult movie is, the history and sort of like the history, sort of the leading up to the current day of what cult cinema is and kind of what it means to different people, and then exploring sort of what cult cinema can mean in the future and what it means in the digital age when you can share films so easily, and that kind of thing. So I was interviewed for this. The director is Bill Fulkerson, who listeners, you might know if you ever listen to Outside the Cinema, which is another OG podcast. They do horror, but they also do other kind of movies. But they've been around the same amount of time as we have. But they've always done just like crazy, obscure cult stuff that you've never even heard of. Like these are people that have seen like 70s prison movies and like nunsploitation movies and just like all kinds of batshit crazy subgenres you'd never think of. Anyway, so I saw the movie myself a couple months ago. It's actually really good. It's really interesting. Kind of look at all this stuff. I say a bunch of smart things in this movie, John, which is probably the best thing I can say about it.
Oh, okay. So like all of the things you just got them all in one sitting. Okay.
So it's
I
playing.
say all 5 of the things that I know.
Just last week or the week before, it won Best Film at the Divergent Film Awards, and it is going to be screening some people on Twitter were asking me and some people on Slack saying like, hey, let me know if this is playing anywhere. So it's at some festivals coming up. It's going to play at the Shauna Shea Film Festival. That's in Southbridge, Mass, Saturday, October 6th. The Rock and Shock Horror Convention. They're going to be there, and they're working on a screening. That's October 13th to 15th in Worcester, if you want to get some ambas. The other side of the country, the Sin City Horror Fest, October 19th to 21st. They're still working on a screening time. Witch City Horror Fest in Salem, Mass. It's going to be screening Saturday, October 27th. And the World Film Fair, October 26th to the 31st in New York, New York. That's still working on that exact time there. I could get you into that, John, if you want to see
Yeah,
it.
I was gonna say, shoot me the info. I mean, like, look, long shot, but if I'm around, I would like to check it out.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for you to say some smart stuff, so this is like the perfect opportunity,
John,
I guess.
You listen to it for 90 minutes every
Been
week.
waiting 10
you're
goddamn years.
You're actually on the IMDb page.
Nice. Oh, I have an IMDb page now? Oh, shit.
Yes.
Oh, good. Oh, thank
I
God.
gotta upload a picture.
Holy shit! Oh man,
Um,
this is blowing my mind right now.
I told you,
I
it's
gotta-
a real,
I
it's a
gotta lay down
legit
this.
movie.
Go ahead and fill out his trivia. Knows 5 things.
Listen,
Yeah.
there's a part in this movie where I bring up the subject of Joe Bob Briggs and Monster Vision, and then they cut to Joe Bob Briggs talking about Monster Vision,
Nice.
and it's my greatest achievement.
You are currently on the IMDb page. You have to go to full cast and crew, and you're the very last person
Son
on
of a
full
bitch.
cast and crew.
Way to go.
I mean, to be
unbelievable.
fair, I do. That is my only
It is
credit.
Survival of the Film Freaks is in you're known for.
Oh man, how do I get into my page here and upload stuff?
Oh my God,
I
I
don't
can't
know.
wait to see
There's
what your
gotta
rank
be.
is. Hold on. Oh my God, you are down 7,142,574 spots this week. Must
How
have
do
been
we
all
bump
that.
that number up?
All right,
Let's
yeah.
go.
What do
Guys, fans?
Somebody who knows something about IMDb, help me out here. Let me know.
I have a feeling that all three of us going to it at the same time will probably bump him up at least 10 million spaces.
Nice.
I'm clicking on update information on Eric Newell. Yep, sign in with Google. Oh boy.
Oh
this is
shit!
live.
Nice.
Oh my God,
Nice.
John, please squat on Eric's IMDb page. I have pictures that I can send you to upload as his
Oh
book.
my god.
That's great.
I can't wait. This is my
That's
new,
gold.
But
That's
for
gold.
for
really
real
turned the corner
though,
on this. This is my new favorite thing.
for real though, it's a really great documentary. It's a really interesting exploration of like stuff that I think all of BGH listeners are into. So, if you, their hope is to get distribution and off of these screenings and stuff, and then go from there. So then, hopefully, 2019 it'll be potentially available wide and people can check it out. So there you go.
Nice.
And go visit my
good, great poster.
and go visit my IMDb page. It is a really cool poster. It's a take on the Maniac poster.
Yeah.
It's good shit. So there you go.
All right, Eric. I won't make fun of you anymore for this.
Thanks, buddy.
It's a big moment. You're on IMDb. so-
I actually am kind of excited about that. Not gonna lie. All right, guys. That's it. Let's take a quick break here and discuss The Predator.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
And we're back. What's my ranking now, Mark?
You're up 3 spots.
It doesn't even say your ranking. It just says you're down 7 million plus spots.
John Schnars,
Yes.
are
Eric.
you on IMDb?
No,
Oh.
no. I aspire to be on IMDb. This is like a one day maybe.
Are you on the DBD, the Duke, the
Uh,
DBDB, the Duke Eskimo
Duke
Brothers
database?
database? Yeah,
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
Probably on that.
there you go. Words.
So.
John.
mhm.
We're almost wearing the same color shirt this week. Sort of.
Mine's like a salmon. It's like a salmon colored shirt, I'd say.
Mine's more like a crimson or
Hmm.
like an orange red. What do you call that? Like a burnt sienna?
You know, it's funny. I had salmon for dinner tonight. So I was
that-
wearing the salmon. and
is that
eating
funny?
salmon.
That is hilarious.
Is that funny?
It's something, guys.
Okay.
Yep.
John Schnars, please
Yes,
bring
sir.
us the word of the day. Although Sophie's really stealing your thunder this week by drinking out of the fancy wine glass.
I know. Still disappointed about it.
Just
Today's
a
word.
regular ass glass, though, not a mom glass.
Yeah.
Eric, today's word is foramen. Foramen. Foramen is an opening, hole, or passage, especially in a bone.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. So I found, so foreman comes from the Latin forae, which means bore a hole. Like bore, like like a drill bit or something. But foreman. So I found this because I was researching spinal cords, spinal columns, and so the hole in the actual spinal bones that contains the spinal column is called the spinal foramen. So that's a little bit of anatomy for you on top of your word of the day. And because we all know that predators love nothing more than spinal columns. I think that's like the number one for them, right?
Oh, that's their favorite thing.
Mm-hmm.
They got that human juice in them.
They, I was gonna say,
They played Mortal Kombat
like,
a bunch, and they liked Sub-Zero. And
dreadlocks.
Yeah.
And lasers.
No, I mean, we'll get into it, but this movie does a really fun job of just like goofing around with some of the like
Mythos.
ridiculous, unexplained parts of the Predator lore. One of which is the spinal column ripping. So yeah, Foreman. There you go.
Love it. Thank you, John.
Mm-hmm.
John, what's this about? Who's into? Who made this? Who's in it? What's it about?
Yeah, so The Predator, directed and written by Shane Black, of Predator fame, I believe, original Predator fame. Also, like a lot of other things.
So, he didn't direct the first one, did he?
No, he's in it.
He's in it. He's an actor in it.
Oh, okay. You know what, John? I don't know who Shane Black is.
So I probably would say, I mean, Shane Black's written a ton of stuff. I would say he was best known to me as the writer and I think director of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah,
Eric, he's also on IMDb. Just like you.
Yeah,
maybe we can link our
researchable.
pages together.
How many points is Shane Black down on IMDb this week?
No, I'm sure he's up.
He's got to be up. Yeah, people are searching
up.
for him.
He's up. No, but so Shane Black made his name, at least as a writer. He wrote the original Lethal Weapon. He wrote Monster Squad. He actually co-wrote Monster Squad with his co-writer here, Fred Decker.
This is only his sixth. He directed Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Iron Man 3, a TV movie called Edge, The Nice Guys, and The Predator.
Yeah, I love Nice Guys.
He's
I don't know
written.
where you guys
Nice Guys is
delightful.
Nice Guys is great. But no, he's been more of a writer. It looks like.
Yeah, and so I think that's like Shane Black has like a style to him, like his scripts.
Also, he was in Predator, the movie.
I see that.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
RoboCop
yeah.
and
He played
RoboCop 3.
Hawkins.
He was in
There you
He was in Night of the Creeps.
Yeah, that was his first
says
credit. He was uncredited.
Yeah. Sorry.
But yeah,
continue.
so so that's Shane Black. Shane Black. So when it was sort of revealed that Shane Black was writing and directing this, I think that kind of like got a lot of people of a certain variety of people, I should say, pretty hyped up. But yeah, so Fred Decker also co-wrote here. Fred Decker, directed a bunch of 80s things, including Monster Squad and things like that.
Monster Squad.
Yeah, I think one or two of the RoboCop movies. Great 80s cinema, high quality 80s cinema. And yeah, so this movie picks up. It is set in present day. It picks up. I'm gonna say that this movie. So they reference the first and second Predator. It is unclear to me if the Alien versus Predator films happen pre or post this movie. Do you guys have a?
See, I don't think that they were necessarily recognizing them in the canon. I think what's kind of fun about the way they write it is that maybe you could still say, because they just kind of say like, oh, there were incidents or whatever. But like when they name the two, it was 80 something and 97, which is that one. Is that when the second one came out? Because it blew my mind that was 97. I would have said that was like.
The second one was 1990.
I think it was
so what is
87 and
97
90.
then?
Yeah, I don't know
They say 97 in the movie.
Yeah, they do. You're right. I mean, this is where like
Interesting.
this movie. I mean, we may get into it, we may not. Like, I don't consider myself a completist on Predator lore or anything like that. And so there's a lot of stuff that they kind of like throw around in this that is references to a broader lore that, to your point, like, and that's one example of this year that they reference where I kind of was like, oh, that must have been Predator 2. But yeah, it was 1990. So like it's something weird's going on. But yeah, so essentially you pick up, we're living in sort of present day. we see that a predator is escaping from being pursued by presumably other aliens or predator type folk. He like goes through a
It's a cool
wormhole.
wormhole effect.
Yeah. I'm also going to use the male pronoun, but I think we just agree that they're all men. I don't know. But that predator lands on Earth, immediately like gets into an entanglement with this sort of like military sniper setup that is in somewhere in Mexico, I would guess, or
Yeah,
it was yeah. And so the sort of like main character that we meet right out of the gate is Quinn McKenna, played by Boyd Holbrook. Probably best known to me as the sort of main character in Narcos. He was in Logan, in Gone Girl. He's been in other
good
stuff.
at being gruff and unshaven.
Yeah. He's like kind of got like the generic white guy thing going for him too, but he also has that kind of like cavalier, to your point. Yeah, I don't know, like cowboy type of
anti-hero kind of a thing.
yeah. Um, so we see, Quinn McKenna, he is like doing this sniper mission, sees this predator land, has this encounter with him, and actually, essentially like he doesn't kill, but wounds the predator, to the point where some government types are able to come capture that predator. They take it back to this predator base, and so we sort of like next meet this doctor, Casey Brackett, played by Olivia Munn. She is sort of commandeered by these government types, asked to come to this military base where they reveal to her that they found this predator. She is an evolutionary biologist. She kind of says at one point that she's on call if the government ever has like an alien encounter. She's kind of like the foremost expert in that. So now you have Olivia Munn, Boyd Holbrook. So Boyd Holbrook is basically being railroaded, I guess you would say. Like, so the government, like kind of these same sort of like shady folks who have captured the predator, also get him. They're sort of like grilling him to see what he's going to say. And essentially they basically are going to like send him to prison for killing the other two Marines, or like, army folk who got killed by the predator. They're going to set him up and also put him away in like a crazy bin so that no one believes that there's this predator, because they won't believe that so he gets onto a bus, and all of this sort of happens right around the same time. So Olivia Munn is there. This predator basically wakes up and it starts to escape. Boyd Holbrook is on a bus with a bunch of other, like a cast of characters of like other deranged / like damaged goods army types. So you meet like this like really kind of like crazy cast of characters. Trevante Rhodes, Keegan-Michael Key, Thomas Jane. I mean, like it was like a kind of the guy who plays.
It's crazy how good the cast is in this movie.
Yeah,
like
yeah. So
I mean, they're good in the movie, but even just on paper, it's like wow.
Jake Busey. But
well, obviously I include him in that statement.
Yeah. So
you can't have a good ensemble cast without Shasta McNasty.
They're on this bus, these like sort of like crazy army guys. They're all kind of like interacting, like yucking it up. A lot of like quippy, fast Shane Black dialogue type stuff going on. And the Quinn McKenna is basically telling him that he saw this alien or had this interaction with an alien, and that's why he's been put on this bus. They're all kind of like joking about him, but then the bus like takes like a hard turn and starts to like drive them toward where they're keeping the predator right at the same time that the predator escapes. So they basically arrive as this predator is escaping, and the rest of the film is basically these seven folks trying to both catch or interact, like deal with the predator, but also keep themselves alive because they're being hunted by Sterling K. Brown, plays this guy Traeger. He's kind of like the head of this shadowy government agency, and they're basically trying to cover everything up.
I feel like his whole Sterling K. Brown's whole character description was just chews gum obnoxiously and then base every character trait off of that.
Yeah, and also say motherfucker a lot.
What would a gum chewer do?
How many times can you say motherfucker convincingly in one sentence?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
you're so nice on that weepy TV show. Can you please motherfucker it up for this movie?
He basically must have told his agent, like, yo, you got to get me something harder than
It's
This
so
Is
funny
Us.
the whole time. I couldn't tell if he was really good or if I hated how he was acting. Like I just couldn't. Like I know you're supposed to hate the character, but I couldn't tell if I thought he was being bad or not, or brilliant. Like I think
a lot of this stuff comes back to the script.
Was he bad at being bad?
Yeah, I agree. We can talk about that kind of stuff. Let's get into it though. Sophie, what'd you think?
So I liked this movie a lot. I hadn't seen any of the Predator movies until maybe a month before this. My boyfriend was so excited he made me watch the first one. I don't think I ever watched the second one, and I also watched the one with Adrian Brody, which is bad.
The second one is
We
honestly.
liked that one, I think.
I thought that one was
I
alright.
didn't.
The second one is kind of worth it because like it's in New York City and Danny Glover's a cop and like it's just craziness just being.
That
like,
feels like it would be great. To be honest, I didn't like the first one either, so maybe that one would be fun for me.
Well,
But I kind of went into this like I didn't like any of the. I had seen 2 of the first 3 Predator movies. I have never seen any of the Alien. Are there 2 Alien versus Predator movies or just one?
Yeah, there's 2.
Yeah,
AVP
I've not
and
seen
AVP
those.
Requiem.
Got it.
I believe we covered
we did
both of them.
No,
on
we
the
did
show?
we did Requiem on the show. The other one
Okay.
came out before this was a show.
Okay, and then we did Predators as well.
Yes.
That's the one with Adrian Brody.
Yeah.
Fun
very
fact about
heavy,
Adrian Brody. When I lived in New Orleans, one of my housemates worked at a nonprofit with Adrian Brody's mom, and she said her favorite movie her son had ever done was Splice, which is a weird and bad choice, especially if you're Adrian Brody's mom, but it's fine.
That
I
movie's
always
great.
wanted
You
him
don't
to
like
date an
you don't like
alien.
Splice? You don't like Splice, Sophie?
Well, that's a whole other thing. Anyway, but
jeez.
no, I don't.
Hey.
Oh, let's not get into it.
So I came into this movie sort of like I sort of came into this movie with pretty low expectations, and I feel like for me this movie knocked it out of the park. This movie feels like it knows that it wants to kind of pay homage to the like really crazy ridiculous 80s action movies, and I think I said this over email. It does that in a way that I have not really seen very many modern movies of any genre do successfully. I feel like we're in a moment right now where a lot of movies and TV want to capitalize on like the aesthetic of the 80s and the feeling of the 80s, and they do that to varying levels of success. But this movie for me sort of felt like my favorite kind of bonkers 80s action movies, but it felt like it took that kind of energy and put it on a movie that felt very modern instead of making a movie that feels very like you're ham-fistedly trying to make it.
Well,
an 80s movie, if that
also
makes sense.
too many movies stop at the aesthetic part. Too many movies stop at like the visuals and the music, whereas to me, like why this is successful is it has the spirit of those movies. They kind of just like balls to the wall, like fuck it. Kind
And
of.
I feel like
The
there
like
have
plot
movies to
only
try to-
makes 80% sense.
yeah, I think we're gonna talk about this later, but this would have been a problem in any other movie, but I sort of love that there are places where it really feels like whole scenes got left out and we jumped to recreate. And I
Well-
think there are movies that have tried to recreate that spirit but end up doing it in a way that feels very forced. For me, the only example I can think of another movie that's done this so successfully, and these movies for me don't have a lot in common actually at all, but the way that The Guest is able to feel like a very modern movie and an 80s movie at the same time, this sort of achieved that for me in a very different way. But I like this movie a lot. Thought it was
The
really
adjective so it's funny because when you were talking about it, I totally agree. At least with from like the way it's structured and like it has like a shagginess to it.
fun. Yeah.
It's like I don't know. We'll get into whether it's
Well,
like
and let's not forget
intentionally
too.
shaggy or just like kind
Let's
of.
let's
ends
not
up
forget
that way.
too. Like, and I think this is lost on some of the fanboy stuff that goes on the internet. Have you heard of the internet, Mark? It's a terrible place. Don't go there. But like
I open it up and then close it every day.
the original Predator, while creating a really memorable character and having these kind of great action movie moments, is also a hot fucking mess. Like that was a movie infamous for multiple reshoots. Like the actors didn't know what they were doing, like what the story was, because they had reshot so many times. Like they had to fire Jean-Claude Van Damme. You know what I mean? Like that movie is not a perfect movie. It's just a really memorable movie. You know what I mean? And that's kind of I feel like what they were going for here. Mark, what do you think of this?
With Sophie on this, I think this is a super fun, complete fucking mess. There's some interesting. I feel like if you look at reviews online, which is always great, bloodygoodhorror.com. But if you're looking at what hot takes on Twitter and the sort, people are like, the score is all out of whack. There's scenes that are completely missing from the movie, and I'm kind of like with Sophie that I feel like
amazing.
that was right. I mean, I feel
it was like John Williams scored a Predator movie.
Right, but it's weird because it just seems so out of place, but I kind of love that about it. It just has this really fun quality. I think one thing that it deserves credit for is, there's one female, there's I would say one and a half female characters in this entire movie, and that could go,
Is half of them one of the predators? Is it a girl? I still
no, the
No, it's
sniper's
the
sniper's wife.
ex-wife or
She's-
I'm
estranged
kidding.
wife.
I was kidding.
the ex-wife who just had speech left in her that
Yeah.
she let out. But the I I think the way that they handled Olivia Munn's character was great. I loved that scene. There's a scene where she like shoots herself accidentally with a tranquilizer. I was like, oh no, they're gonna make this character really terrible. But the scene where she's about to wake up and they're all like they like made her tea and they're like laying stuff around her in this hotel room so that when she wakes up she's comfortable but coming off really creepy, reminded me a lot of that scene in Tucker and Dale versus Evil, and I just thought it was kind of a funny little, like to Sophie's point, that's kind of a little modern twist on the sort of like bro-y action, like 80s action movie.
They're all, yeah, like because they're all actually really sweet, even though they're like very crass and
Right, and there's a lot of there's like a bromance in there. There's a lot of random like very serious moments talking about like PTSD and that sort of thing. It's just a fascinating movie. Like it's a complete mess, but I think it's super fun.
Yeah, I think that's actually like a fair way to put it. Like the thing about this movie for me is it's kind of gleeful in a lot of ways. Like we use that word on this show every once in a while. It moves like a motherfucker. I'm just gonna keep saying motherfucker, Mark. It moves like crazy. Like you
need some gum.
You never linger on one
You need
thing.
to stuff 6 pieces of gum in your mouth.
You
before
never
start
linger
using
on
that
one
word.
thing for too long. Like the score is awesome. Like the score is exactly, to me, it just is so evocative of. It actually is almost more evocative of something like Lethal Weapon, right? Or like a sort of 80s action movie sort of thing. I thought the effects are great. The fun ways that they kind of loop back into the mythos and sort of it's not even heavy-handed. It's like they're just little things that were never explained. They might give a little reason to, and then in the process they find a way to sort of move the whole thing forward, which I really liked, which we can talk about like when they get to the end of the story. The cast is insane, and frankly, I think that they bring a lot of life to a script that has its issues. Like I actually think that like maybe the most impressive thing about this movie is how funny it is. When if you read the script on paper, you would probably just find it super not funny. Some areas super cringeworthy. I'm thinking like this opening scene where they're all in the van. They're all in the like military kind of police van, like breaking each other's balls, and it starts off a little rocky because you're listening to the dialogue and you're like, oh man, this is like they're really crass and it's kind of corny. But by the end of it, like you're just laughing because these guys are just like legit comedic talents and they're lending a kind of humanity to what's going on here. And actually, in hindsight, it's really brisk. The whole arc of him meeting them, there being some like antagonism, and then they're kind of fast friends because they're put in this situation. It happens really fast, but it feels natural. Olivia Munn's a little weird. I like her a lot. She seems like a little out of sorts here, trying to play this like super nerdy scientist character. I don't know what it is. Which she was on G4 TV, John. You'd think she'd be able to play nerdy, but she's fine.
I mean, she
And
actually fits in really well.
I like her.
thought.
I don't
I
think
like
that
her.
the writing does her any favors. Like
No.
they're like explain why she's there, and she's like, I liked aliens and I wrote a letter to the
Well,
president once, and that's why I'm here. Like
right.
that's not,
And so if there's any complaint about this, and my thing is, before I say this, let me say like I think that everything else about the movie overcomes this stuff, but the script, and not even the script, because I like the plotting for the most part, but I find a lot of the dialogue to be a little ham-handed. Specifically, like anything where they're trying to give exposition is just like shit like that. Like her explaining how she got there, which makes no sense. Or like her whole thing about guys, I have a theory, and then busts out this like insanely complicated theory that like there's no way she could have jumped to, right? But for me it's like it's fun. So kind of who gives a shit? And I feel like the point in this movie at which I gave myself over to it was the point where the predator gets loose. all hell breaks loose. She's up on top. She somehow jumps on top of this bus, which makes like no way this
That's the craziest part in the entire
no
movie.
normal person would do that, right? Let alone this character who's supposed to be kind of like a mousy
She
scientist.
definitely does not hesitate. She just full on.
But she does
on
it.
the top
She
of the
shoots
bus.
herself in the foot with the thing. She falls off. But at this point, I'm like, whatever it was, something about this stuff going down made me kind of go like, okay, I need to recalibrate myself here.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was able to do that, I had so much fun with this movie. But I just think like a lot of the dialogue is a little forced. Again, like it's salvaged by an amazing cast. The only other issue I had was at some point in the editing process, somebody took a hatchet to this thing and they really kind of effed up a couple of sequences that really bothered me. There's two specific ones I'll bring up and then we can move on. But there's a great part in the movie where it basically, they're at the guy's house and then it becomes a search for the son because the son has gone out on Halloween dressed up in some of this Predator stuff that he had stolen.
Yeah. I didn't even cover like how.
No, that's fine. But like, but that's a fun part of the movie because then it becomes like almost a great. First of all, they set it on Halloween, which is awesome. There's no reason to do it, but it's brilliant. It adds this nice atmosphere to it. And there's a whole section where they're out looking for the son and just crazy shit is happening. They've all split up. They're driving around. They're finding the son. The son's blowing.
I mean, that was
houses up by
100%.
accident.
Someone wrote on a piece of paper, "How can we get a little kid to wear a gigantic Predator mask?"
But that part in particular, right, has this great energy to it. It's just like scene after scene, like little encounter, and then they run away and they're driving, and it's nuts. And but then like in the middle of
the
it,
guy throws a piece of like food at the kid for ringing his doorbell on Halloween. Like it's just like shit like that where you're like,
that scene was one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I thought that was
agree,
pretty
but
brilliant.
It's goofy.
It also like actually sets up though later in the movie the thing about the weapons like auto firing.
Yeah. But
But like so there's a scene they've all split up and they're coming back together because they all know where the kid is, and suddenly over the like phone or whatever it was, the one merc guy who he's like his story was that he had tried to commit suicide once, and then he really is the main leads like kind of they become the tightest throughout the movie. They're kind of the that's his like bro, but like
That's his ride or
suddenly
die, you might say.
suddenly in the middle of nowhere without any context, he is riding in a cop car and he goes, "Yeah, I commandeered some wheels. I'm heading that way," and you're like, I bet there's a story about how that happened, but you're not going to show us. And it was really weird, but it's like, whatever, you move on because a million things are happening. Then later,
they're being attacked by alien dogs.
Then later in the movie, two characters show up to save the day in a weather helicopter, like a news station helicopter, which they've at least set up that the one guy was a pilot. But
Also,
it's
the
not
visual
even
gag is that there's ladies on the side of the helicopter.
But like they don't even pay lip service to it when they hop in the helicopter to say like, where did you get this thing?
No,
They don't show them. You don't even know at that point. I don't even think you know. Maybe they were like, oh, we're gonna go find wheels or something like that.
Yeah, there's a bit of dialogue where he's like,
But-
hey, you know how to fly? And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go find us a
And
Huey
in that
or
same
something like that.
sequence, there's a crazy, just bananas edited thing where the kid is drawing a map, and literally within 4 cuts, such major plot stuff has happened. I'm like that. You like, in other words, it's just so inartfully done. It feels like studio edits, to be honest with you. Like, it just feels like we needed to get this thing shorter. It's about 1:40 right now, and like, here's some crap that isn't action, so let's cut it. But what happens is it kind of you really got to just be willing to roll the punches because it kind of leaves really weird holes like in the middle of the movie.
Well, I'll say 2 things on this point, right? Like, at no point did I have a sense of space. And what I mean is, like, I had no idea where the fuck they were.
It's a little all over the
entire
place, yeah.
Yeah, and then similarly, to the point that you were making about the map that he draws for the end, there's this whole element of, so we didn't even really get to it, but like there's the first Predator, and the first Predator, it turns out, is actually there to deliver something to the humans.
Alert, by the way, we're getting into some serious.
Well, but this is like midway through the movie. This is
well, we should listen. Let's just lay it down. Let's say spoilers. I would say you could shoot about
light spoilers though. Like we're not.
No, that thing you're saying is a big spoiler.
Oh, all right. It's still revealed like pretty early on, but the long and short of it is like you actually like the main antagonist in the film, other than Traeger, who's like the Sterling K. Brown character, is basically a super predator, which I don't know. Maybe that's like a Hillary Clinton joke, masquerading as a film, but it's like a giant, like 11-foot tall predator. I think they say it's like 10 feet tall.
It's pretty nuts, yeah.
It basically, to me, I mean, the only thing I kept thinking of was Super Shredder when
Dude,
in
yeah,
Secret
totally.
Issues.
For sure.
It literally looked
Or
exactly like
or Uber Jason from Jason X. I'm sure Mark thought of that at least once.
yeah.
Hey,
So
yes.
but so the other problem that I was having with this movie is that so the whole point is that the first Predator arrives and is bringing the humans like something. That's what like one of the things that Olivia Munn I think like sort of
Yeah,
susses
I
out.
guess you do sort of. There's rumblings of it early on because there's moments where he doesn't kill people, and they're trying to figure out why didn't he kill me or what, you know.
Yeah. Well, so my point was like I at the end was so goddamn confused about which ship they were in. Was that the good ship or the bad ship or like
That was
it
the bad ship because the whole point was that there was the stuff was on the good quote unquote good ship, so the super predator needed to blow it up basically to destroy it, and then went back to his ship. But you're right. The problem is they don't really show that was his ship. You just kind of have to figure that out.
Dude, you did like you
Because
just
why
like
would he
turned this
want to? Why would
movie
he want
90
to?
degrees on me.
It doesn't make sense that you'd want to
I
destroy
mean,
his
I
own
didn't even
ship.
fully realize there were two ships until one blew up and then he got in a different one.
Well,
so.
like, but why would he want to blow up his own ship? He's got to get back to Predator World.
Well, yeah.
But the
I
point
don't know.
is
Just
when
like-
you're making a movie, the whole point is to make you not have to think about these particular.
Well, no, but I
things.
think what your point being, like that whole end scene in general, there's a lot of spatial issues because there are so many. Like our huge ensemble cast is all there, and then there's all these grunts on top of it. They're in the woods, right? So there's no there's no landmarks really, and so yeah,
And
there
it's
are.
dark. I think that's important. Is it's so dark you can't like there were several people who died and I didn't know who had died.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
well, even
there's
when Traeger gets killed, it's like it's so anticlimactic because it's just like
yeah,
"Ah,
we
man,
talked
he
about that over
exploded."
email. Like my boyfriend and I saw this with our friend, and at the end of the movie, he was like, "Did the bad guy ever die? Did we see that happen?" And I was pretty sure we did, but I had watched it happen and was still only like 80% sure that we saw
Well,
it.
it was especially weird because him and good guy sniper guy had a little banter before they started fighting the predator on a time limit where they were like, after this we're gonna tango. They just
Right.
never really got their opportunity to. I was
Oh, yeah,
expecting
you're
the
right,
tango.
you're
We
right.
were denied the
Yeah.
tango.
I mean, that whole scene is nuts. It cracked me up because at the end of it, like, they go back and some of these guys have died, his like bro crew, and they gather up a bunch of items that presumably they're gonna bury. And I'm just sitting in their theater being like, but they're just like they just got killed in the woods, dude. It's just like go
Dude,
get their
yeah.
bodies and actually bury their bodies.
It's just their
Well, and
bodies
to
are
that-
It
around.
made me laugh.
To that point, like I'm sure I'm the only person that was bothered by this, but there's a scene where the main sniper guy and two of his friends are on the predator ship, which is taking off, and the force field starts to turn on, and the kid is like, "There's a force field, everybody duck!" And the lead sniper guy ducks, but one guy gets his legs cut off.
That was I
Because
loved.
the force field forms around him, and the whole time I was like, "How have his legs not rolled over to where that guy is?" Like,
Oh, funny.
he wasn't that far away, and the ship is banking, and like we never see his legs again.
I
Well, 'cause
loved
I
that
didn't
think
whole.
very
I
cool.
loved that
that.
whole.
It was cool, kind of cool. A cool visual that he was able to get into the ship basically by riding the curve of the
Yeah,
thing.
that was
So to your point, would have been kind of a funny visual gag if the dude's legs like rolled off and hit him in the
Like
face or
bonked
something.
him. You
Yeah,
I will say,
That whole
just
bit
like-
though, about how, about a shield like that being a physical thing that would like cut off. Like I thought that was awesome. Like, and it's just kind of,
you know
it's
why you
f-
think
it's
that's
a-
awesome, Eric? Because that is 100% like a Resident Evil.
well,
thing.
it's a fun idea, and I think that's kind of what this movie does all the way through, from the kid blowing the house
I
up
mean,
to
the-
like Sterling K. Brown running through the woods with the little predator thing on his shoulder. Like, there's just every time where they looked at this concept and thought, "What's a silly thing we can do with this?" and have it be fun and actiony. Like they just kind of went for it.
I
And
think
well,
you
and
can
isn't that what
gauge.
killed Sterling K. Brown? Isn't that how he died? Like, didn't the thing on his shoulder shoot him?
Oh, I didn't
Maybe.
put that together, but it was
There
very
was a
dark.
lot
to your
going
point.
I
on.
think that's what happened, but I'm not entirely confident.
I-
Mark,
I
I'm
think
sorry,
you
go
can.
ahead.
No, that's okay. I think you can kind of gauge like how you feel about this movie based on your reactions to certain moments. The moment we keep talking about, the Halloween moment for sure, and then there's a moment towards the end, which is like kind of the kickoff of the third act, where they found the ship. The kid has led them to the ship, or the kid drew a map, and they like randomly smash cut, kidnap the kid, and bring him to the ship.
Mhm.
And meanwhile, all of our good guy, our happy convicts are getting set up to kind of bum rush the place to get the kid back and whatever, and they're setting up a little base, and it's revealed that they have predator translators, which is, I mean, you know, not a very far-fetched concept, but the hilariousness, the predators talk like they're like shit talking, like it's just ridiculous. And the
Well,
moment where he says like time advantage or something, and they're like, he means a head start, and then it cuts to the clock,
Dude, that
and
was hilarious.
they
I
all
love
have
that.
7 minutes to get away, is like, if you are not in the headspace to enjoy a movie like this, you're like, that is terrible.
But also,
but
and
if you are like we were, you're like, that is amazing.
You know why that
I
actually
cannot
kind of
wait
like
to see what these next 7 minutes are going to be.
I don't know if that was something people had a problem with. Like, actually, I'm very proud of myself, Mark. I saw like 10 articles today that were like,
You always.
I saw like 10 articles today that were like the problem with the ending of The Predator, and like never once did I even like think I want to click on that because like I had liked the movie, so who gives a shit. But what I love about that is that you've got a
can I
race
just
of
interrupt?
aliens.
Pointing out problems in this movie does not make you a genius. It means that you have eyes and you've seen other movies.
But like it you got a race of aliens that hunt humans, right? So of course like they would fuck with them because that's what they're doing. It's sport, and it's actually funny. Like they make a point of that as a joke in the movie when they talk about the name the Predator
Yeah.
and how it doesn't make sense.
Well, they make fun of Traeger, and they're like predator, but it's predators like, you know, hunt things to eat them. This is more
Yeah.
like the bass fisherman or
That
or
was, and that cracked
hunter.
me up. Like when like Olivia Munn first makes that point, and then somebody else brings it up, and she's like, "Thank you, I said that."
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's funny.
It's
just a fun
I
movie.
like the dogs. This had a number of tropes, right? You get like the super giant monster, then you also get the little sidekicks that might also help you. I feel like
I wish
They
the
were
really
dog-
it was the
they were-
Ghostbuster,
I wish
like
the-
the Gozer dogs.
I wish the dog would have
Exactly.
been more prominent. Like I wish they would have, because they don't really what they really
I
should
wish
have
they would have
done.
gone full friendly with the dog. I'm with you
Yes,
on that.
yes, they kind of like they kind of just made it not aggressive when they really should have cooked up a way for it to have become friendly with them. And then I think it should have actually, because they kind of
Wait,
make
but they
you-
do, because the
Yeah.
dog is aggressive until they shoot it in the head
No,
and
no,
like
no, no, no.
essentially lobotomize it, and then it's a friendly
but
dog.
it's not friendly though. It's kind of just hanging around
It's
and
just
like
dumb.
to me it
It's
should have
just a
been
dumb
to me
dog.
it should have been
Doesn't-
actively on their side, and I think it should have played into the finale. Like I think that the dog should have like saved whatever the day was at the very end.
The
Doesn't
dog did save the day. It just
Yeah.
like didn't really realize it was doing it.
Right, like I
Yeah,
just think it should have
yeah.
been actively like, I'm your bro dog now. Let's be a
So-
prominent part of your bros.
I actually would posit. I have to get my one like most outrageous sort of element
Can't
of
wait.
this film.
I'm so excited.
Um,
Can't wait.
So this is like major spoiler territory, like, but we've already covered a lot of it. So they're in this final battle with the super predator, and they're running through the woods. They get on this ship. The ship is flying, God knows how far away, and then they get into this final showdown. And fucking Olivia Munn comes running up out of nowhere and saves them.
She can run really fast.
The ship flew miles, I would say. Like I was so baffled. I was like, wait a second, what she's back? Like did the ship do like a
I
U-turn?
had more of
And-
a problem figuring out how those two dudes shot each other when one of them shot like a half second later.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm like
that
they
was a
didn't
great scene.
they
though.
didn't count down. Wouldn't
Yeah.
how would you know when you're I don't
They
know.
Yeah,
just
I
kinda
was
looked
gonna
at each
say that
other.
was one of the scenes, like when Mark was saying there are scenes in this movie and your reaction will define if you like the movie or not. If you don't like that scene where those two guys just like silently agree to shoot each other, you're
No.
not gonna like this movie.
For me, if you the scene that I would choose, and so the way I've been defined, because I've had a lot of people ask me about this movie, like sort of like the normie crowds at work and stuff, is when the super predator murders the regular predator and rips his fucking face off.
It's awesome.
Like if you are in for that, you are in for this movie.
Oh man,
like,
so
that's
much
where I
so much
go from.
great green blood in this movie. Like to Eric's point, the effects were, I think, part of the
and
super
red
predator.
blood.
Yes,
Yeah,
lots
it
of
was
just
pretty gory.
great color blood. I think the Super Shredder comparison specifically comes from the fact that it's very clearly for most of the movie a giant suit apparatus. I'm sure it's super enhanced by CGI, but it just has that like very like tactile, like big buff suit feel. And the regular Predator is basically human sized, and that's actually kind of a point they bring up in the movie, that it actually like has human DNA. So that's pretty clearly practical effects for a lot of it, and I think really just makes all the difference. There's not like 400. They're not. It's not fields of screaming predators running at each other that are computer generated or whatever. It's like a bunch of like lovingly crafted monsters of different sizes, which I think is really cool. And like the effects, it's just like some great neon blood splatter.
I totally forgot. I kept like in my head forgetting that predators don't have acid blood like aliens, and so every time somebody went to pick it up, I was like, no, don't, and then they were fine.
Did anyone else? So we're this is like gonna be a weird spoiler because it's not even gonna make sense unless you've seen the movie. Did you guys think that the thing that appeared at the end was going to end up being like an alien kind of?
Yes.
Yes,
100%.
I 100% did. Yeah.
I literally don't even know what you're talking about.
So
do you yes, okay, never mind. Yes,
well,
the
this
very,
was also
the very,
when
very
Eric was saying there's all these like articles online. I assume they're talking about this scene. This is like kind of like a post.
The very ending.
No, I don't know. I bet.
Like
I assumed they were talking about the Sterling K. Brown thing and kind of the lack of like, I don't know, kind of resolution you get there.
So
can I before you get into it, can I just say one scene that I really liked because I wanted to know if anyone else thought this was super effective. The very opening where we see our lead sniper guy, like he and a colleague encounter the predator for the first time, and the predator's invisible, and we can kind of see its like weird outline jumping around, and it has hung one of his friends from a tree, and he shoots something from the predator's ship, and it cuts his friend's body in half, but it also hits the predator. That shot of all of the blood and viscera falling on the invisible predator's body so that you can only see it through the blood and its eyes open was, in my opinion, like the coolest part. As soon as that happened, I was like, I'm on board. This movie can do whatever it wants, and I am so in for the rest of the movie.
That was pretty
it's
sweet.
definitely like a signal, like this is gonna be the vibe.
Yeah, exactly. They're letting you know right up front what's gonna happen.
This is a very particular vibe. So the ending that happens, I mean, I'm not going to go too much into it, but basically, so we already kind of talked about this. This first predator is sort of leaving something on Earth to fight the inevitable super predators that are coming to basically kill off the rest of the human race and occupy the planet. And so it's in this little pod thing, and they have this pod in like a laboratory. And the sniper guy's son works there, which we haven't even talked about. The kid, who, by the way, is an Oscar-nominated and/or Oscar-winning child actor who is in Room.
Well, he's also been in like 15 horror movies.
I wasn't sure. Yeah. I wasn't sure if I should feel uncomfortable or not with the portrayal of like magical autistic kid who can figure out alien computers. Like, honestly, I just don't know where we are on that now. So you have to forgive me. Like, somebody's gonna have to let me know how I feel about it.
I was a little conflicted, but I don't think they were like exploitative or like, I mean, it's definitely, I don't know, sensationalized, but I didn't think it was like.
I mean, it does become
the right way. Magical is the right way to describe it.
It does become a super important plot point, like, and they actually tie it in pretty well.
Well, and then and to see Mark's describing where he's like now like an FBI super scientist. He's 12 years old, or not even. He's like,
I was gonna say if that.
Yeah.
He started by being able to assemble multiple chessboards back to their original state after they're flipped over, and now he is programming rockets or something. But anyways, so he was good. He was
Wait, but so are you going to explain the final sequence, or do you want me to do that, or what?
No, I just wanted to talk about the pod.
Oh yeah.
So this pod, you get this kind of like sci-fi-ish ending where the pod smoke starts pouring out of the pod, all of the screens are glitching out, and you're like, oh shit, it's a twist, they're all gonna die. And what pops out, so where I got this alien comparison is that it's not immediately clear what's coming out of this pod, and it's covered in like black goo.
Well, and they say the predator brought this to help us defend ourselves.
How cool would
that
have been? Predators. That would have been amazing.
Right, so I was thinking, and I mean, you have to imagine, because it's the only thing in this movie that has like black goo in it. You have to imagine it was somewhat intentional to kind of trigger that thought in people's heads, because even it looked like a little like almost head pointing out at some point. I was like, what the fuck? So
that never even occurred to me.
After it clears out, it attaches to one of the scientists. You're like, oh my god, it's like turning him into a predator, and it turns him into this like, again, super shredder, but like highly like mechanized kind of robot predator. And it cuts to all of the scientists in the room, and they all have the little like predator reticle laser pointer thing on their forehead, like, and you're like, oh my god, they're all gonna die, and then the suit detaches from the person, and then it's like a little arm cuff
It
that
was
I
just a
guess
dip.
in the future they'll be able to wear and become the super predator. So it was kind of funny because it was like built up to be this like, sci-fi twist. Like he said he was helping you, but you're all gonna die.
Dude,
But
I
really, what it's
thought
setting up is that when we make this next movie, now someone is gonna wear this little wrist cuff and be like Robo
Well,
Predator.
I thought
Yeah,
that effect. I thought that effect was so cool. Like the way it kind of goes up and
Yeah.
around him and on and then back and just like it just like, demonstrates itself. It was
well,
like that was such a
it's
cool
like
effect.
it was like Iron Man, which Shane Black directed.
Yeah, and
I think,
actually,
one of
it's
them.
funny
Yeah,
too
so-
because the whole thing about like an alien sending technology to help deal with other aliens is it's the same plot as the Independence Day sequel. That's what the whole movie's about. But it's
there
in
you
that
go.
in that case, it's a different race. What I like about this, it's kind of cool. Like you sort of get these, and there's been a little bit of this in other movies, but you kind of get these little glimpses of something like the predators aren't just this homogenous group of evil hunters or whatever. It's like this idea of, oh no, there's this dissident. You know what I mean? It gives you a little flavor of larger culture that
This
that
was
you're never gonna
just
get from
the
like an action horror movie, but it's like a fun little thought exercise.
Well, this is like to me the perfect amount of Predator intrigue because if I look at something like the Underworld franchise where you can't tell like who's good and who's bad and who's half this and half that and whatever, I can handle this dichotomy of like there's predators that are trying to help us and then there's the way fucking bigger predators with dogs that are trying to kill them. Like it was just, you know what I mean? It was just enough. Well, and now I guess there is the human robo predator thing that whatever, but it was just enough variance in the Predator lore that I was able to handle it. Now, the problem going forward, if they keep making these movies, is it's going to be hard not to slip into that trap of like over explaining generations of good predators and bad predators and all that sort of thing. So I hope they don't. I hope they keep the spirit of ridiculousness if they do end up making another movie.
I'm not sure how well it did. Like I don't know if they will.
Yeah, it's not great. Like, I mean, it won the weekend. It was
honestly,
#1.
It's a shame. I think that I just don't. I think that seeing this with Mark actually helped me a lot, right? Because like we normally don't see movies like this. I don't like communally with people, but it's one of those movies. Like I feel like it's a movie
Yeah.
that is just to be enjoyed as a fun kind of event.
Yeah, if you had to go to the theater by yourself, been exposed to urine all over the ground, and then see this movie by yourself, I feel like you would have like lost 10 to 15% off the
But
top.
yeah, maybe like it's possible for sure.
So
No, but
opening
John, do you feel
weekend.
like you would have?
Oh, go ahead.
John, do you feel like you would have liked this movie more if someone yelled "Amba" in your theater before the movie came on?
Yeah, probably.
It
No,
helps.
I liked it a fair bit. Like I don't want people to come away thinking I didn't. But yeah, to Eric's point, like this didn't do great. Like it won the weekend, but like it was pretty low.
It
They
made 26.6 million on a budget of 88 million. Now the worldwide is at 56 million.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
but
not
that's
great.
88 is production budget. They marketed this pretty heavily. I mean, look, I think it's like a legit question to ask if the controversy around it kind of hurt the film a little bit. I don't think like really
I mean,
damaged it, but
For
like
like a week straight before it came out, that was all I heard about. Like I didn't
Yeah.
actually know much about the movie itself.
yeah. So I mean, it is what it is. I would love for them to make another one. I would go see it for sure. It is a sin that like all of the characters are dead. Because like
What's kind of funny though? I think about this, like, you could just make a sequel to this movie and make it. I was just thinking about this because I watched the Emmys last night. Like, when is Netflix just gonna start making sequels to movies that didn't make money just because they can? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they still got to do the math. Like they can't. They gotta. There's gotta be some.
Do they though? Have
Yeah,
you seen?
have
some
you
of the
seen the
fucking
amount of-
garbage that's on Netflix?
Have you seen the amount of
Yeah.
crap they're producing, John?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I have. There is like a limit. It's like to where they can
All
get
right.
to, but
We got to wrap here, guys. Would you recommend this, John,
yes.
Sophie,
For sure.
Mark,
Yes.
in the theater?
Yeah. I mean, this is more fun in the theater.
It's big and
But-
loud and dumb in a fun way.
Yeah, if you like predators murdering things, yes.
There's a lot of that.
Strong yes.
All right.
Hard
sweet.
yes.
Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Getting some really strange readings in here.
A missing crew
This place is a tomb.
DJ, where are you?
and infinite evil.
Ship has been beyond the boundaries of our universe. Who knows what it's brought back with it?
Vacate! I want off this ship.
You can't leave. She won't let you.
Event Horizon. Rated R.
Hi, this is Tom Savini, and you're listening to BloodyGoodHorror.com.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. One email this week, info@bloodygoodhorror.com. This comes in from Adam. Adam writes in about a movie whose title I don't know because I don't have the subject of the email. Stand by.
Oh
This is
boy.
awesome, right? Assassination Nation.
Oh yeah.
He says, "Run!" Exclamation point. Don't collect any of your shit. Just get the F out. This movie is so bad.
What?
I had to
Oh
wa-
no, I've been so looking forward to
I
that.
had to watch it at
Yeah.
work, and even then, just got up out of sheer hatred to leave. Then I realized I had to actually sit through this heaving pile of crap.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
boy.
So there you go. But
This is a huge bummer.
listen, some people don't like the Predator, but they're wrong. So you never know.
Yeah. I think it's probably gonna be a sophisticated covered joint. I don't know. We'll
yeah,
see.
I kind of wanted to check it out too, but somebody will cover it.
Jeez, Adam.
info@bloodygoodhorror.com. What's up next? Mark on Twitter.
Threw to me really quick. I didn't realize that was the whole email. Yeah, so we use two hashtags, and since I haven't been on the show in a while, I'd love to point out that I read an iTunes review where someone said how much they absolutely hated that we read quotes from ourselves on the podcast, and it makes me so happy and makes me want to read BGH Classics even more. You know, that's kind of the point. The navel gazing's the point.
I mean, we're not pulling our own quotes.
Right, someone else is pulling them, and we're just reading them and laughing at ourselves.
My
to death.
favorite part about it is 99% of the time, like, I don't remember saying any of this stuff.
Right, really what this
Yeah.
is just a bunch of old people trying to remember shit that they said, you know?
Right. It's like
so if you're-
it's like dispatches from a previous self.
Right. So if you're new to this planet, one of the hashtags we use is BGH Classics. So we have our entire back catalog of episodes available, patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. And if you are a lovely patron, of which there are many, and you're listening to a back episode, tweet us some dumb, silly quotes, and we will read them and remember them and laugh.
We should also give a
s-
shout out to Monica, who on our Slack has shared her. She's basically created like an exhaustive episode guide that's like a work in progress, where every episode it's like, you know, the movie, the beer, the word of the day, and then she slots in quotes. So like every episode she's got something to share.
She's
Like-
doing a lot of the work that we should have been doing from the
It's
start.
legitimately amazing. If you're in Slack, you can check out the data sub Slack thing, and
I believe it's data and nerdery.
there's some discussion in there about it, so you can check it out yourself. And I don't know if she's added people to it so they can add to it or what, but like, you know, as people are going through the old episodes, so
Delightful. Okay. First BGH Classics from That Baseball Joe. John is drinking a 40 out of a wine glass. He didn't want to touch a bottle a poor store clerk touched. that was Eric, and that was from our Spooktacular on Contracted, which was simultaneously the best and worst Spooktacular that we ever did.
the second and last time in my life I have ever drank a 40.
The 40 idea was a good and bad idea. The movie was a horrendous idea.
I texted Mark the next day, like, what is in those things? Because I felt like I just was destroyed.
Metal fragments, I think. This next one, also from That Baseball Joe. Can you guys not wrap your mind around the fact that she could have given birth to a balloon? That was me, apparently. from Starry Eyes.
I don't.
No idea.
I don't remember
I am
that
going to
movie.
go out on a ledge and say that you were talking about the Beyonce pregnancy conspiracy that Eric was on for a while.
Oh
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, probably.
Because I was
Yes.
on that episode, so I feel like that might be what that was.
Although I
Yep.
do take umbrage with your use of the word conspiracy, Sophie, but
I remember Eric making me Google the video of her sitting down on Oprah ?
yeah, yep, and it just
Yeah.
disappears like because it's a balloon. Yeah.
See, Sophie, that's your young person brain functioning as our external memory because we could
Look at it go.
Yeah, look at that. Hold on to that. This last one is from Biddle Brian, aka Friendly Gayborhood Daddy Man. Hello.
Wow.
Yeah.
The
Amazing.
best.
Yeah, love it. Episode 77, in which a then unknown to the crew, Joe, leaves not one but two voicemails consisting of him in his car, screaming/singing "Come Sail Away" at the top of his lungs. I have tears of laughter rolling down my face.
Amazing. I wasn't sure
That
if
sounds
he
right.
meant. I wasn't sure if he meant unknown, like we didn't know who sent the voicemails, because that's definitely possible. But we knew Joe.
Right, but
We
I,
just-
yeah,
he
I
just-
think
knew Joe.
well,
The rest of us,
we knew
Casey
Joe.
and I just thought it was a creeper.
like a psycho. And then you just
Maniac
learned that he
killer.
is a psycho, but he's a
Yeah.
lovable psycho.
Yeah, lovable.
He's like psycho, but he's our psycho.
Every now and then I'll be looking for like a random file on my computer and I'll just find like a folder of voicemails downloaded, like some old backup.
I mean,
and,
I have
they
the
are-
I have the raw files for every BGH episode, and that includes all voicemails.
Man.
I don't know why, but I still have it all.
So we're just gonna put out a voicemails episode one time, just to like,
Just old school voicemails. Just here's an hour
blow
of
people's
them.
minds.
Have at it.
Yeah.
I won't do any editing. I'll just drop the files on a timeline, export them as one thing. That's not a terrible idea. No,
Oh,
who would want to
man.
listen to that?
I don't
Lots
know.
of-
Let us know if you're
There's a
interested.
reason we stopped putting them in the show.
For patrons.
Lots of heavy breathing, I imagine. Okay, cool. We also use the hashtag AskBGH. So if you have a question, tweet it to us with the hashtag AskBGH and we will do our best to answer it. First one. This is from Stovall Cody42. If you had to experience a plot of an episode of The Twilight Zone in your own life, which would you pick? Man. I'm
Not-
struggling to remember more
not
than
a
like
huge-
5
yeah.
episodes of The Twilight Zone off the top of my head. Maybe the one with the devil in the diner because I like going to diners.
I always think about the guy who gets like, I think it's like a apocalypse scenario, and he basically is like all the time in the world, and he like just wants to read by himself, but then he like
Time
steps on
enough
his
at
eye-
last.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
like the
And he
one
steps on his
everybody.
glasses.
That's the one everybody knows. Schnars, come on.
See, but I don't need glasses, so I don't know. I might be into it.
I saw this crazy episode one time a couple years ago because like Sci-Fi does that marathon every year, and like I don't really like Mark. I could probably name maybe 5 episodes, but this one it's like a
To
bunch
Surf
of
Man.
a bunch of people in like a round cylinder room, and they don't know where they are, how they got there. They just wake up and it's like a soldier and a dancer and like a cowboy, like a bunch of random kind of like archetypes.
It's like that movie Devil.
You kind of, but like they're trying to figure out where they are. It's like it's like featureless. They don't know where they are, how to escape or whatever, but they can kind of see the sky above. And then at the end of the movie, it turns out that it's Christmas time and they are toys that were thrown in a garbage can. And they realize that they're toys. They're not like real humans. It's
They
very-
realize
Wow.
that it's
Is that the episode that you want to live?
No, I'm just saying that's one I
He's
remember.
literally naming an episode that he
All right.
remembers.
I think this Ask BGH is turning into name any episodes of Twilight Zone you can remember.
It was just
I
weird.
can think of several, but I wouldn't want to be in any of them.
So To
that's
Serve
the-
Man is another classic, and I want to bring that up if only to point out that the aliens look like Michael Shannon.
Like the hitchhiker one would be terrifying to experience. Wait, some of you're all parents. Do you remember the episode where the little girl keeps talking to someone on her toy phone, and then it turns out she's talking to like dead relatives who are trying to convince her that she should also kill herself to join them?
Oh my, no.
No.
That would be a scary one to live as a parent.
I guess I take issue with the premise of the question. Why would you want to live in any Twilight Zone episode?
Yeah, I feel like they would all be pretty awful.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Cody,
next
let us
time
know.
I mean,
you,
that's the whole
man,
point of
on
the
phone.
show, right? It's not like something you want to hang out in.
Right. Next time you ask a question like that, offer up your own answer so we can figure out where your head's at.
It's an unsettling zone, that's for sure. So-
Next one is from Isaac's Haunted Bee. Will you rank the Predator films from favorite to least favorite on your show?
Sure.
Again,
I will definitely do that.
I don't really
the
have
last
strong enough
question,
opinions on any
name
of
all
them.
of the Predator movies that you can, because I don't think that I.
There's only 6. Like I can definitely.
There are
give them-
6? Oh, that includes the AVP ones, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, John, go ahead.
Well, so here's the thing.
I
You
think
kind of
I
have to go
think-
Predator number 1, right?
Sure. I think
Um,
Requiem is the worst. That's the only thing I'll put in.
Well, I would probably go 1, 2, then this one, then Predators, then the 2 AVP films in
Which
sequential order.
one would you rather watch? Which AVP film?
Oh, the first one by like a mile.
Yeah.
Which one was Danny
look,
Trejo in? I can't remember.
I genuinely enjoy the AVP films. Like now they are ridiculous. Like I enjoy them on a ridiculous level, but I will go to bat for the AVP films.
My problem that I remember with Requiem is that it's not enough AVP. Like I don't think they actually fight until like the end of the third act, and you're just like, what's going on here?
Well, yeah, I mean that's where I think from what I remember, the first one is better. It has Lance Henriksen in it, I believe. Danny, wait, is that the one with Danny Trejo? No, he's in the second one, I think. In any event, yeah, that would be my order. I don't remember enough of 2. Like I think I've only ever seen 2 on like HBO or like Cinemax back in the day, and it was like heavy rotation there. So.
And Cinemax was in heavy rotation?
No, like it was like one of those, you know what I mean? It was like one of those movies that was like always on like the pay channels, and so you would like pick it up halfway through. I don't know that I'm sure I have.
You'd like watch it scrambled and try to make out a predator. Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's a reference for the olds. All right. Next one is from Softly Sighing 2. So the Predator, clearly on steroids and HGH, could Arnold even take him? Could Brock? And I want to know what the lady Predators look like. You don't even want to see my artist rendering on that one. I disagree. I do want to see your artist rendering.
I still maintain that either of these Predators could be ungendered or female, or
I mean, they seem to be
I
pretty.
sort of like to imagine that the giant predator was a lady. That's how I watched the movie.
Nice, cool.
I mean, just I like that. I don't know. I mean, they could all just be like lab born, right?
Yeah, genderless.
Yeah, they do seem to be not gendered.
I mean, here's the thing. The one thing I would say about Super Predator here is that he's pretty easily killed by these guys. Like, I kind of got to the point at the end where I was like, this thing should fucking straight murder all of these people very easily.
Right. There are, let's say a dozen people trying to kill him in the movie, and he is taken down by a handful of them, which seems like kind of the opposite of how you think that would play out.
Yeah. And it's not like when you see it, you're not like, that's the most implausible thing I've ever seen, but it's definitely, there's a level of like, this Super Predator should be whooping the shit out of these guys.
I mean, the visual of like him being like in a basement and his head like being up on the first floor was so cool.
That was the Super Shredder moment when like Super Shredder breaks through it's like the boardwalk or something.
Yeah.
Isn't that way? He's like under a boardwalk. Yeah. That's what that reminded me of.
Nice. Sweet. Yeah. I don't think any of the movies have touched on predator reproduction and or gendering, have they?
Well, this one starts to like go there a little bit because it's all about how they're combining the best parts of different species that they're hunting to create. So that's where all the different elements come together. That's where the human DNA comes in. So yeah, maybe Eric's right, and they're just all lab grown.
Yeah, that makes it sound that they are creating them intentionally, like one at a time, made to order predators.
Just create themselves.
They just like put them in a glass of water and they grow really big.
Oh, those things were cool.
Yeah,
they're so slimy.
Dinosaurs.
They're so slimy.
Yeah,
they still sell them. I saw some in the airport, and I'm like, as a parent, thinking like, who the fuck would buy that for their kid in an airport? That sounds like a goddamn mess.
You will absolutely be buying one of those in the next.
Mark's point being,
I can't wait to put this wet dinosaur in my carry-on.
Yeah, like in an airport. What are you gonna do with it? But they get
no, Mark. Mark. You know you're not supposed to make it big before you put it in your suitcase, right? You take it home dry.
Right, but like, what's the point of buying? I don't know. I just do not understand why it's at an airport. Okay, I just don't get it. All right, last one. It's from Skizbot. This might be a question for another episode, but absolute favorite movie composer and score. Go.
John Harrison, Creepshow.
John Carpenter, several John Carpenter films.
Yeah.
I also am a big Harry Manfredini fan.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah.
I was listening to the score recently for Friday the 13th, Part 6.
As one does.
You don't think of those movies really as having distinct scores, but the one for Part 6 is amazing. Also, I recently discovered, John, that there are YouTube channels where people who like collect horror scores will just like play them on their like nice turntable and just have video of it, and then you're hearing it.
Very into the. I'm
It's
very
just
into the
record spinning around, no sound.
Yeah.
No, you hear it.
You're
No,
joking.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
That's literally it. Super into the Phantasm score. Have that one on vinyl. That's cool. But that was also on one of those channels where you just like watch it spin and listen to it. I was like, but I still need to buy it.
And so I know my other favorite John Harrison one is Day of the Dead. It's like a really, really cool score for that movie.
Dig it. Cool. Those were actual answers. How about
There
that?
you go.
Is that the last one?
That's the last one.
info@bloodygoodhorror.com. We're also on Twitter, @BGHorror. Check us out on Slack, especially now that we're getting towards spooky time. Lots of fun activity on Slack. It's become a little community there, John.
It has.
I want to say too, like sometimes we get emails from people who are like, "Hey, I signed up for Patreon like a year ago and I never joined Slack. Like, can I have the link again?" If that's the case, just hit us up, info@bloodygoodhorror.com, and I'll get Schnaps over here to send you the link again, and open up your world to a land of pure imagination.
We will get you taken care of. Don't worry.
It's a lot of fun. So there you go. Don't forget to hit us up with pictures of your training for the first BGH Virtual 5K.
And I think there's a playlist going for it now. Is that right?
Mark, Shar, somebody.
That is correct.
How does one find it? You should search BGH 5K.
Well, yeah, it's on Slack. Joe shared a link.
And I think it's on. I think also Joe might have tweeted it. So I'm pretty sure if you go to the BGH Twitter, it's on there. Or you could just put on your favorite horror score and go running to that. I would recommend the It Follows score. It's pretty great to run to.
I'll try and get Joe to pin that playlist tweet. If we
Yeah,
can find
I can't find it just in the search, so yeah, we should do that. So there you go. Well, next week we already have our movie decided for next week. What is it, John?
Mandy.
So Nicolas Cage.
Just tune in if you want to hear Joe singing a lot of Barry Manilow. It's just get it up front. Yeah. Nicolas Cage. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be a ride.
So there you go. Mandy next week. Coming in hot on the Halloween season, Schnars. You ready? Excited?
Very much so.
It's gonna do it for The Predator. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you next week.
Adios.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.